Everyone over here. So my name is Akshat. I'm co-founder and CEO at Amper. We're a technology company here in Chicago, and we provide manufacturing analytics. I'm going to be moderating this panel today, and the goal over here is to understand, what are some strategies for 2021. Obviously, it's been a pretty crazy year, and it's that time in December when all of us are planning out how we're going to be allocating resources, what's going to be a strategy as we turn this corner. And the goal is like, how do we take it to the next level? Change is always an opportunity. And so we have a fantastic panel over here today to talk through it. So, you can ask questions as we do this in the Q&A area, and we can go over those towards the end. And this is a recorded session as well, so we'll be sending everyone a copy of this recording. So, to get started, I want to introduce a panelist today. Going to be starting with Jim Boss. He's the Director of Production Operations at SNC Electric Company. He's been with the company for over 23 years, and he's had roles across IT, launching SNC's continuous improvement program, and he also leads their US fabrication operations and their industrial IoT team. Rick, he's the president of SWD Inc. Here in Addison, Illinois, and they do metal finishing, coating, fastener sorting, and their packaging company that was established in 1980. And he's serving as the immediate past president of the Illinois Manufacturing Association. He's also the chair of the government relations for the National Association of Surface Finishers, and the past president as well. Randy Lusk, he's the general manager of Lusk Quality. They're a 44-year-old family-owned business that does precision turning and screw machining. And he's also the current board member of the Precision Machine Products Association, PMPA. And his main focus right now is to prepare the next generation of machinists. And Dave is the Dean of Engineering and Advanced Manufacturing at Daly College here in Chicago. It serves as the Center of Excellence in Manufacturing with programs across CNC machining, industrial maintenance, welding, quality assurance. And Dave himself has had a great career in manufacturing operations across automotive and all kinds of other industries. Welcome. Yeah, thanks for being here.
Thanks, glad to be here.
Great. So, to kick off a couple of questions. So obviously it's a crazy year that's almost behind us. And, given that, I want to reflect upon this past year for a moment. Rick, what are some of the major changes that you've had to make this year since the pandemic started? Very broad question, but just kick it off.
Yeah, that is broad. Well, I can remember, back in January and February, starting to hear of, this thing called COVID-19, and it was really just kind of foreign to us at that time. And as time approached in March, we ended up realizing that it was here in the United States, and we were going to have to take some action. And we're very proactive, basically, with listening to what was happening from the governor's office, what the CDC was saying. And I can remember sitting in this very conference room on a Friday in March when the governor announced that the state of Illinois was going to be going on into certain types of lockdown, and fortunately, manufacturing was considered essential. We actually do parts that go into not only automobiles but also the DoD, and actually I had letters that of that effect from different OEMs or different government entities to basically show that we were essential, because if they were to shut us down, we wouldn't obviously be able to do what we do daily and would affect the manufacturing supply chain, which ultimately was affected in many ways with a lot of the auto assembly plants being shut down in April and through May. And so going back a little bit, though, we formed a team of we called them the sanitation team, and basically had a lot of input that we had from different customers that at higher levels than we were, to take best practices, and ultimately have evolved to not only having sanitation stations throughout the whole plant, but doing things like temperature checks and all kinds of different pieces to make sure that our team, as they arrive at our facility, are well and ready to work. And and that still goes on as I'm speaking to you today, because obviously we're seeing a resurgence now at this time of year. But I don't want to take up the panel's time, so but we've done quite a bit to navigate this, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, safety was definitely the first thing to
Yeah.
ensure before taking any of the operational steps. Randy, I'm sure you took very similar steps around safety. And at an operational level or on a production level, what are some of the changes you had to make, as well at your plant?
Actually, in our particular plant, we've done very little in terms of needing to make any changes. Primarily, the social distancing aspect is pretty much a standard based upon the way machinery is spaced and the way people work. We started the year, we were probably about 45 people. We're 65 now. So we've actually benefited by a number of other industries in California that were hit dramatically by shutdowns. We had one customer that closed their operations for a month, but other than that, we have seen actually growth out of all of this. And to date, we've had 2 of our employees that have tested positive, all from family member interactions. So we did contact tracing of other people in their departments once we found out somebody tested positive, but have had no cross contamination, so to speak. So for us, we've kind of skirted around the edge.
Yeah, that makes sense. No, that's really good to hear, and I'm glad it's benefited you, and despite like all the circumstances. But that's yeah, and going into 2021, I want to just take a quick note about digitization and terms like Industry 4.0 and IoT. This has been a buzzword for like 6+ years, but it really is very vague and not clear on what it actually means. But I know, Jim, you've been doing a lot of changes at SNC Electric, really investing a lot in digitization. Would love to hear your perspective going into 2021, especially at the turn of the year. What are some things that you're investing in, and what are some lessons you've learned from all the things you've been doing this year?
Well, one of the things that we've come across is that we've had a bit of a digital divide between our hourly workforce and our professional workforce. The hourly not really having a way to digitally interact, to get updates, things like just on COVID-19, right? When we're in the thick of it, how do we communicate to folks, how we're doing, what we're planning on doing next, and keeping them, because we've got quite a large plant here in Chicago. There's just short of 3,000 people in our plant with 1,500 hourly workforce. So we accelerated our deployment of low-cost tablets to every hourly team member so that they have an internal email address, they've got Microsoft Teams, they've got our MES system, and that's been a way to allow us to continue on with some digital training and deploy different information out to them without getting large groups of people huddled up together like we've done in the past. I think that type of investment is going to pay large dividends going forward as we turn our shop floor into more knowledge workers, because in the reality, they are knowledge workers, right? They know how to build the complex products that we make.
Absolutely. Dave, you've run operations, across from like printing to automotive, very competitive industries. And, things like MES, like what Jim just mentioned, have been there for a long time. What are some ways where you've seen it really empower folks on the shop floor and be a long-term tool versus just a thing to cross off? Like, what are some strategies that you've seen where, these kinds of technologies are used day to day and really core to the culture?
Yeah, the biggest thing is that they see an impact from the activities that we're asking them to participate in. So if we're asking them to fill out a check sheet or interact on a digital phone or a tablet with something, or putting notes on their shift notes in at their machine at the end of their shift, that they see results from those actions and that somebody's following up on them and things like that. Otherwise, those activities are going to wither and die, and you're going to be struggling to restart that over and over again. So it's really an organizational decision as to, what we're asking our teams to do, and that, we support them and, and follow through really on what we're asking them to do.
Yeah, makes total sense. I mean, Rick, you and I spoke a few weeks ago around, how you've had, these kind of regular reviews. Would love to kind of hear from you around how you were able to really engage your whole team and, have that feedback loop actually successfully happen. You might be on mute, sorry.
Sorry about that. Yeah, we have, I think, a pretty powerful system regarding how we communicate. And to, I think, everybody's point, the communication piece is crucial. Number one, we have a daily huddle, every morning at 9 a.m. where we have people in from all different disciplines to discuss ongoing things, from production to different human resources to customer visits and so on. But, the other piece that's just as critical is how do we get that information out to the plant floor, and how does it, get back, and how do we form that circle? And basically, we are communicating this information onto the plant floor. In fact, I would even suggest that the Amper product helps us to communicate even how's your day going when you ask a machine operator, and they basically can look up at a big screen on the plant floor and see, well, here's how my day's going. It's very visible. So even the I'll call it the scoreboard, if I could use that terminology, is very prevalent, in helping to understand that daily productivity. But the bottom line is that that's just one of many pieces. We've been very focused on training and training programs this year, more than ever, and it seems like we just continue to accelerate that. I think during part of our conversation was, what do you do to make sure that the knowledge when somebody retires doesn't walk out the door or they leave the company? And I think developing these robust programs is one of the ways of helping us to achieve that continuity that we are looking for as we move forward. But we're doing things like that. We do what we call layered process audits, which probably a lot of the companies here are doing as well, which helps us to really kind of have that sustainability piece. It kind of gives us that checklist to make sure that things are going as we think they're going, and helps us to find, unfortunately, sometimes we find an area that we maybe have let down. So, and what can we do to improve that? I don't know if that is what you were looking for or not, but that's what we do.
Yeah, no, that's a great response. Dave, I mean, you're speaking with manufacturers on a daily basis about having that continuity, as Rick mentioned, having robust training, as well as processes that are very defined, so that folks can easily onboard folks and new hires and train them up. Starting at 2021, let's say manufacturers looking to create a plan around getting started with resetting the systems and training plans. Like, what would be some of the low-hanging fruits or the initial areas that you'd suggest investing in?
A couple things, Ashad. I'd say, number one, don't do training for training's sake. Do it for a purpose. Do it for something that's going to be used right away. And there's a lot of virtual options out there for training, whether it's through LinkedIn Learning or Udemy or even Tooling U, places like that that are available for manufacturers. And you can do that during break time, things like that. People can do that at home. So there's a lot of real practical, self-paced training that manufacturers can have their employees do. But I have to mention apprenticeships and the opportunity for employers. There's people have an impression of apprenticeships that it's a big unwieldy thing, but there's a lot of help out there, and apprenticeships come in a lot of different varieties, all the way from non-credit, short-term, year and a half type programs to programs where a company might work with Department of Labor and be sponsored as an apprenticeship sponsor, or maybe the college or partner you're going to work with. But also there's people like the German American Chamber, and you can work with the German American Chamber on their ICAT apprenticeship, and they have a fully structured to help with training your trainers and things like that. So, in manufacturing, I think that's, we all know about the skills gap, and we have to put things in place to prevent us from losing that knowledge as people are walking out the door. And, it takes time, and this gives us an opportunity to attract and look at and grow our workforce.
Yeah, those are great points. I mean, Jim, you're hiring several folks across your team. What are some of the things that you're investing in to help with both onboarding as well as just for the long term?
Yeah, so we've built a program called our Work Element program, which we've across our plant broken down all of our work into these elements and created career paths. And essentially, we pay $1 an hour more for every element that you add to your flexibility. Now we tie that into our MES system, right? And so we can see what types of flexibility that we're building. We can also see what types of leaders, which leaders are better at building skills and team members, and which leaders seem to pigeonhole folks, right? So that we've got a nice digital wall of shame where we go in and drive for results that way. But that allows us to kind of tie the expertise that we need, our business need, to the skills that we're building. It makes it exciting for drawing folks in. And it means that we're investing in your career. Imagine a welder or a machinist, right, that can run 5 different machines versus one that can only run one. Which one is more valuable in the marketplace? Well, we recognize that, and we encourage and drive that flexibility so that they've got a career they can stand on. But at S&C, we hope that we build that culture that they stay with us, stay with the company that keeps investing in you as we go forward. So tying that all together ends up being a pretty important selling point for us, and we think it's done pretty well.
Yeah, absolutely. I know Rick has to just leave for a few minutes, so in case he leaves the screen, he'll just be back shortly. I just want to make a quick note. Randy, I have a question for you. So what are you've grown your team, and as we can all kind of agree here, hiring skilled machinists, set of folks is not trivial. What have you seen, what have you applied that has attracted folks to less quality, and what are you investing in as we go into the next year, into 2021?
Well, I think recently, actually, part of the COVID thing and the downturn in commercial aerospace related to Boeing's issues over the last year or so have actually, in our particular area, driven a lot of layoffs of people with skills. Now, not necessarily the skill set we would particularly look for, but variety, as Jim was saying, finding somebody that can be cross-trained or bring in skill sets that may be different, but we can utilize and expand on has been big. We also happen to be in a sleeper community, so almost everybody commutes an hour or more to jobs down the hill. We're one of a few employers that are actually up there that are in the community. So these layoffs have, for us, actually opened up a lot of people. But going through those and talking to a lot of them, they find themselves pigeonholed. Again, a term Jim used, and they're looking for somebody that will keep investing in them. And that's kind of been our mantra over the last 40 years is teach them as much as they can, because it's always worth it. Whether they stay with us or leave us, we want to invest back into the industry. So giving them the opportunity to learn to do something else, even if it's not applicable necessarily for today, we think it'll pay off later. So giving them the choice. A lot of shops, again, in our area are aerospace related. So an awful lot of stuff, all programming, all engineering is done off the shop floor. So the guys running machines are called machinists, but they're really operators. And they don't have a chance to do the kind of things that they really are intrigued by and want to learn. So by giving them that opportunity, we get a lot of referral references for new employees as well.
Absolutely. I mean, just going with that, Dave, like, what are some areas that you've seen folks invest in to be able to attract and retain talent?
I think what Randy was saying is right, is that the cross training is a big thing, and people like to have a feeling and understand that their employer wants to help out their flexibility, and that leads to more overtime opportunities as other people can't work and things like that. So the cross training and trying to fill out that matrix that we all worked with in manufacturing over the years, trying to fill it out as much as possible to give people as many opportunities. That's a big thing. It seems basic, and it's sometimes hard to do because you need to pull people from the job they know to a job they don't know and have them work in a department that's new to them when you need that other product to run. So it's difficult to do, but the things that Jim was talking about where they incentivized it, and they, so that's trying to create the momentum to keep the program going and make it self-sustaining. And I think that's what you want to think of as how you do that within your own organization. The other thing that I've seen more recently is diversification and what populations employers are looking to for new employees, in terms of thinking about, who else would be good employees. We know about the skills gap, we know about the traditional people problems with finding people, but now with the service industry being impacted in the restaurants and hotels and things like that, the people that work in that industry have a lot of strong assets. They might not have the technical side. We can train them that, but they're going to have the skills of the soft skills, working with people, following directions, reading instructions. The best employee I ever hired was a short order cook, and he could juggle numerous things at one time. He understood it was a time demand to get it done, and he had the customer in mind. So with that, it makes you think, let's look at some other people, and maybe they're not going to check all the boxes on that job description, but we'll get them there if they've got all the soft skills that we're looking for.
That's an awesome story. It's neat. So Randy, like, how do you see technology helping with this? It's obviously a way you can, get further visibility and engage a team, but would love to kind of hear your experience in training up, engaging folks on the shop floor. So, how does technology going to play a part in this?
Well, I think in a lot of cases, what we've tried, and Amper's been kind of our latest entry into that over the last year, is trying to clarify where issues really lie. Things that we thought were holding back productivity as we started collecting the data of why a machine was down, what was holding up production, where the efficiencies were going wrong. We got much more clarity because it was timely. Our history is we would review numbers at the end of the day. Somebody's running 3 machines. You'd ask him why this one was down. Oh, no, it ran fine. But then you'd look at the output and it wasn't there. So now we're able to get that direct feedback. The alert aspect also helps us just in terms of as Jim was saying, the communication aspect. You get it quick, you get it now. Somebody's got a tablet, they can just punch something in. They don't have to go find a supervisor. By the time they find him, they forgot what they were going to tell him.
Jim, do you have any similar experiences or stories at SNC?
Yeah, no, I love David's example of the short order cook. We've actually, we do a lot of things, if you're familiar with the term of a Kaizen event. So bringing new eyes in, and folks from the food industry have been fantastic, right? Because there's a restaurant in the Chicago area called Portillo's that has kind of an assembly line function. And we brought one of those guys onto our line, and he said, you know, in Portillo's, we laid out all of the materials a little bit differently, but it seemed like it might work here. So we gave it a try, and it did. It worked wonderfully. We wrote a nice little article about that. Yeah, we do think manufacturing does need to kind of expand its vision a little bit to start to pull other folks in, because we've gotten a bad rap, right? That it's dirty and it's hard, but it's actually exciting to have something built at the end of the day, to see product go out the door, meaningful value for customers. And when we can explain that to others and develop their careers, I think that's a great thing. And I'd love to see more manufacturers be intentional about doing that. It shows respect to the folks that we have and the future folks that we bring in.
No, I love that. I think there's so much around, changing the perception. I graduated like 4 years ago, and not a lot of folks, have manufacturing on the top of the list, unfortunately, as going into it. But the moment you step into a shop floor and really see and what's going on, and it makes it so much more tangible around how we get products in our day-to-day life and enjoy the quality of life we have. So I couldn't agree more. Rick, like, what's worked for you in attracting talent? Like, would love some more concrete examples. Is it around how you framed the meaning of the work? Was it around selling technology, career growth? Obviously, it's a combination, but would love to hear some specific strategies that you've had in attracting talent.
There we go. Sorry, I was on mute there. We basically believe, or I believe, a lot in networking. I can't tell you how well that's served us in regards to attracting talent. So word of mouth and social media oftentimes is a good method of being able to reach out and find talent that, specific talent that we're looking for. Obviously, the interview process itself and laying out expectations during that time, I believe, is very important too. Where we're not overselling or underselling, and helping the candidate understand what exactly that we're trying to do, and ultimately what our core principles are. It's important that these candidates understand who we are culturally. And so I would suggest that we spend quite a bit of time trying to lay that out. And then ultimately, the other key piece, and it's already been discussed a little bit here, but is the onboarding process. It's the one time that is crucial, and we continue to tweak and refine that piece as we're moving forward. And I would suggest that is one of the other keys that we have, because once we have the right people here, they fully understand that there's many opportunities that we can afford them, even in getting into different roles in the company as time moves on. And so one of the things that I always like to think when we've brought somebody on is hopefully this person will be with us till they are ready to retire, whatever age that might be. And I know that's not maybe typical of especially some of the Gen Zers in regards to how they look at new roles, but you know, from an old guy, and I'm not that old, but you know, I do feel like that is something that I value, going back to the tribal knowledge that we were discussing earlier. I mean, someone who's got 20, 30, 40 years of experience is it's irreplaceable in many ways, and we respect that quite a bit. So
Yeah, totally agree with those points. Kind of switching gears around, you know, we're doing 2021 planning right now. Pretty much everyone on this call, you know, uses data to kind of block and tackle and ultimately focus resources on the right problems, you know, the 80-20. And, you know, Randy and Jim, would love to hear from you all around maybe one or two concrete examples around, you know, what data have you kind of looked at over the last couple of months from an operational lens that have driven a certain investment going into 2021? It's a very like specific question, but like we'd love to kind of see that data, that loop that y'all have had in investing based on actual data.
I would say that for us, it had to do with recognizing that the issue for us was not capacity as much as it was utilization of setup people, you know, that highly skilled layer of personnel, and realizing that in a lot of cases we were having those high skilled level people do jobs and tasks that others could be doing, and we ended up with an awful lot of equipment that was sitting waiting for them. So how to fill those positions, how to, in some ways, promote somebody that was an operator into doing a pre-setting operation, so that the skilled guys were doing basically the final touch off and proof out of a program and a setup, but allowing 3 or 4 setups to be in process at a different layer than the way we had been doing them before, where it was kind of tied to one person. And the Amper data really gave us an idea of where that lost time was, because we identified exactly where are things sitting and why are they sitting and what are we doing. And the common answer was, well, the setup guy is not available. Okay, so now we had a new plan and a new way of progressing, and that's changed quite a bit over the last 6 months.
Nice. Jim?
Yeah, similarly for us, maybe I'll give you start with a zoomed in example. We've got a laser system, and we're looking at how to increase the on-time delivery out of the laser system. And what we ended up finding was with a combination of machine data plus our MES system data, is that the materials that were loaded into the auto load system, those ones tended to kind of flow through, but the lower volume materials that aren't preloaded showed a higher percentage of delays. And what we were able to find is that the operators didn't really like going to get that material and having to hand load it into a laser, because it's quite labor intensive versus the automated system. And when they did it, the setup time was way too long. The yield was kind of low, and they would only happen every so often, but it was enough that all of these materials in that delayed other parts, we were able to see a good 15% jump in our on-time delivery by saying, you know what, if we got rid of this low volume stuff and sourced it elsewhere, this system could run much more smoothly. At a higher level, what we've been doing is we've been looking at, we've been taking the load that comes in from our ERP system for all of our machines on the fabrication side of our house, as well as taking the runtime and starting to match up the runtime of the machines versus the load of the machines, so that we can direct our A3 problem solving to the large mismatches. So we have visuals out on the floor. The screen lights up for me as I walk through, and I can see different equipment, how loaded it is, and is it currently running, right? And we can do time analysis there to find the gaps and make sure that we're applying our workforce at the places where we have the biggest gaps. I think that's a tool that, you know, anybody using Amper and some of the other tools can start harmonizing that data. And to be honest, if you do it right, that it's not, the intention is not Big Brother, but at S&C, we're an employee-owned company. So we all understand that, boy, if we get more value out of our processes, we all win in the end. And that's kind of how we've built it. I'll add one other thing, and that is we've deployed some closed caption type cameras to our automation. And the cameras are focused on the automation, and the control of it is given to the operators. The thought is that I don't want to watch people work. What I do want to do is understand problems. And we have found that automation does have gaps and problems and challenges. But by giving it to engineers, engineers go after things that they think about at a given time. By empowering operators, they then can demonstrate, they can go online either with their tablet or on the screen on their HMI and pull up the video from, look, here, you can see it grabbed the part in the wrong way. And so we've really accelerated our problem solving pretty dramatically that way by giving them control of the video so they can snap it and either show the maintenance team or help in an A3 event. And that has been tremendously helpful and empowering.
Yeah, I love how concrete those examples are. And I like the A3 process as well. So I think we have a question over here. So pertaining to the digital divide, to what extent might language barriers affect the intercompany communication via text media? Would anyone like to take that on?
So we have traditionally as a company have somewhat made it a requirement that we really do need you to be able to communicate at a basic level in English. But we have started on a lot of key documentation of beginning to provide it in additional languages. Now that's been a little bit easier with SharePoint and some things like that. As we share things digitally, folks can choose a different language. We've not yet gone so far as to allow the translate tools that are available to allow folks to select their own language. If you can think about some highly technical documents that might be able to get us into some trouble. So we're gonna do a little bit of trials there to see if we can figure that out. We've got one assembly line where there's about 14 folks, and no 2 folks were born with the same native language, and they all have English as a second language. So having more flexibility in that end would be tremendous, but there's an overhead to that, and we just have to figure out how to navigate it.
Dave, would love for you to kind of share your point of view on, this Big Brother notion, especially as you're trying to attract folks to join these roles. How do you kind of make technology not something that is Big Brother, but rather looking at the process and trying to give the right resources? Would love some practical tips on that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because on the Big Brother point, you've seen, I don't know if it's in movies or some demonstrations where you see people walking around, they all have an X on them, and that the system is keeping track of. So it all has to do with the attitude and what the data is used for, and that it's used for problem resolution and problem solving, not blaming, not finger pointing, and that we're helping the employee out to do the job they're being asked to do, giving them the proper tools, things like that. And it goes along with everything else that's being mentioned here, and that's respecting, supporting, providing the right tools, things like that for our employees. Not just setting a bar and then the bottom 10% are going every quarter or something like that because they're not making a rate. That is going to come up in the long run and not be a productive way of doing things. And you need a culture. And I think in manufacturing, a lot of us know about the lean tools and continuous improvement mindset, and that's the attitude you need to go into the data analysis with, even with the tracking on an individual basis.
Absolutely. We got a couple of minutes left, so would love to, wrap up on a more positive note around, looking at 2021. What are you looking forward to, and what are you hopeful for? Rick, why don't we get started with you?
Well, what I'm looking forward to is getting back to a little bit of normalcy, and I'm going to probably echo that throughout the entire, the whole world. So that's kind of an obvious one, but unfortunately, we still have a certain period of time in early 2021 where we'll still be navigating this COVID experience, and so I'm hopeful that the economy doesn't, change. In a negative direction, and based on our feedback from our customers, we do think that it's actually going to be in a positive 2021, from at least from a manufacturing point of view, from where we sit. So I do think 2021 is going to be a better year for our customers and ultimately for the people who are on our team here at SWD. So I'll leave you with that positive note.
Great. Randy?
Oh, sorry, hit the wrong mute thing. I would agree, getting back to normalcy, being able to go out to a restaurant, actually sit down and eat would be nice. But overall, we have, we still probably have another 30% growth anticipated for 2021. And what I'm hopeful for is that in that process of hiring, we actually build a team that's going to allow us to then further into that next generation of productivity, give some good stability to our employees, and see a payoff after a very long time of struggling in the job shop market.
That's great to hear. Dave, Jim, feel free to take it on.
Yeah, I can go. Early on in the pandemic, when we were seeing all the shortages on PPE and things, and there was a lot of talk in popular media about reshoring and bringing manufacturing back and shortening supply lines. So that's my hope. It's not going to happen in 2021 to the extent that, but let's keep that trend going. Let's keep that positive image of manufacturing out there. And we need the younger generation of people to, come on board, get the bug for technology and manufacturing, and, be able to talk like we're talking right now about the hopeful next year in manufacturing.
Yeah, and I'd say I'm looking forward to returning to the more of an on-floor dialogue and the person-to-person community that we so need. A, that helps with problem solving, with mentoring and development. B, that helps with leadership. At the end of the day, all of us who are leaders, we're in the relationship business more than anything. I've not built a single product that S&C and all the wise guys on my team won't let me touch a machine anyways. But the to do a KPI review via Teams is great, in that you can see the charts. But what I want them to see and feel is the appreciation of the hard work, the encouragement, the support that should come to solving those problems, so that we can celebrate as a team. We can eat together again. We can do all of those things because as a community, we all want to step forward.
Absolutely. And from my lens, what I'm hopeful for is certainly, some of those aspects around, being able to meet people and all, but at a business level, I think we've just seen how people are open to change at this point, both, within our organizations, externally. And I think it's a great opportunity to kind of reset and, run your businesses as you've always kind of had a vision for. So I'm excited to continue our own journey and for our customers around continuous improvement and really taking that scientific process to heart. So I'm hopeful, just as everyone else is over here. Well, on that note, we're at time. This was a lot of fun. I hope all of y'all had fun as well, and I'm sure there were some great takeaways from this discussion. So thank you all for attending.
Thank you, Scott.
Thanks,
And
Rose.
thank you to the rest
Yeah,
of the team.
thank you. This was fun.
Fantastic. All right.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.